Hey, hey, hey! It is a new year and I am here for it. Welcome back to Moving with Meaning, the podcast, where actions have meaning, words have meaning, and we open up the conversations to discover what's your next move. I'm your host, Krystal. It's interesting how we define meaning in life and, well, simply just living. I'm not sure where I got the two confused. Maybe I didn't get enough praise. Maybe I didn't feel or know that I was appreciated. Maybe I just plain and simple didn't think that I was worth a damn thing. Again, let's not get too deep. You know how we do. Let's reveal the word for today's episode. And here we go. The word of the day is, drumroll please, persistence. The meaning of this word is very near and dear to me. This is a quality that one has to continue doing something in spite of difficulty or opposition. In today's episode, I'm going to shed light on my little plugs about my kids saving my life. I don't think people truly understand that I mean that literally. Even as I say it right now. You're probably nodding your head saying, yeah, me too. They give me all I have to live for. I'm telling you, I was not to make it into my 30s. But it's a tale worth telling, as incredibly risky the judgment after this will be. I'm fairly certain many others have felt this way in one way or another. Perhaps even a hint of a thought crossed our minds once. I'm going to attempt to get through this episode without getting emotional, but I may have to have a sponsor break in here somewhere, but we'll see. We'll just keep that open for now. All right, so let's get into this. In my previous episodes, you've heard a lot about how I've pushed myself to a thriving businesswoman, as well as some of the self-confidence and esteem challenges I had growing up. I can remember the joy I had as a child, even enduring the sexual assault and the overprotectiveness and hyper-responsibility imposed on me. Even through all of that, I had this attitude, I'm going to show them. I had my eyes set on getting an education, and I would show them that they didn't need to be so hard on me for it. When I played a sport, I was going to shine, baby. May not be the tippity-top best, but I certainly was up there. I remember starting soccer when I was young, 9 or 10. I was put in the fullback position, which is the last point of defense for your goalie. So the people right before the goalie, if you ever saw a soccer game. Okay, while that has its merit, you cannot score from there, nor do you get to play around with the ball, in other words, dribble with the ball, and I had the agility, speed, and footwork for it. I asked my coach, what would it take for me to move up? At first, she said, why? I need your speed and aggression to protect the goalie. I said, I know, but I want to be more than that. What if I could be more valuable in the offense? What do you need to see from me during practice? She told me, and I worked hard. And after a year, she moved me up to halfback, which is the next line of defense before the fullbacks, and then to wing, which is on the same line with the forwards, but plays the whole field because I had the endurance and skill set for all three positions, and this was the role that I could utilize that in. It would have been great if that achievement was enough to fuel my motivation. But when puberty hit and my parents became extremely protective, I lost my bubbly attitude and became self-conscious. Would I be accepted in a friend group? Could I crack jokes? Did I look weird? All of this was just in my head because these were things I may have been criticized for at home. Not in a bad way. It's like a casual conversation, with parents could turn into something where they would critique me. And it didn't feel good. It was like, I just asked a question. I don't know where we're going with this. I remember my mom telling me about her fun stories with her friends and her cousins. I wanted that too, but when we moved away, that took my cousins from me, and so I was left with just friends. And while my mom was incredibly particular about who I spent time with because she was afraid of me being assaulted or influenced, by the way, is quite ironic when the perpetrator was right under her nose from a family member we took in. I didn't have many friends because I never got to go to places that I was invited to. The movies, the skating rink, because that was big back in the day, sleepovers, and, the plain old girl time. And I got invited a lot until me not showing up stopped the invites from coming on in. Even being on the phone was a big deal in my adolescence. The best time was over the summer because I could be on the phone all day with my friends while my parents were at work. At this time, my big picture of life was getting married, having 6 kids, and having a career. But that vision was quickly fading. I remember being held to a very high standard, and it was becoming increasingly overwhelming. I didn't feel like anything I did was ever good enough. I could see my personality shifting from laid back to over analytical, from good faith to proven record, from learning on the job to perfection. Things really came ahead though with how my parents handled the situation when I finally revealed my molestation. I'm thinking I might put that in as a bonus episode in the next coming weeks from my previous podcast because I'm not going to go through all that explaining again. So let's just say that was a very defining moment where I was like, I'm not worth shit. It was probably around this time where I really thought about killing myself just to see if they would miss me. Anyway, I would do things like try to fit in, so I would dress more girly. I mean, it was the 90s, so the baggy look was still in style, but I did it as best I could. I floated in high school for 3 years because remember, we relocated from the place I grew up. Starting over just sucks, plain and simple. Especially when you are in a school where there are only like 4 other black people and they were doing their best to fit in, which I was not trying to do at that point with them. I wanted to be me, and that didn't pull any fans. Fortunately, in my senior year, there was a good number of blacks that transferred, and I finally got that chance to make friends. I had boyfriends, I got to do my sleepovers, all night phone conversations with my homegirls. One night, me and 2 of my homies planned to stay the night at one of our friends' houses and sneak out to a college party. We had fun and got away with it. When we got back, all 3 of us squeezed in the bed and fell right to sleep. That might have been something that they always did, but for me, it was the best time. Anyway, towards the end of my senior year, my parents went back to their strict ways with curfew and chores. Listen, when it came time for my SAT and ACT, my mom gave me this big old book and told me to study it. And I did, and I made some pretty darn good scores. They were good enough for me to not have to take them again, and I got accepted into MIT, Spelman, and Southern University A&M College. Now here's the thing. Uh, I was never going to MIT anyway. I think my parents just entertained me applying for it. And I didn't want to be a lawyer, so I was not planning to go to Spelman, even though my mom really wanted me to go there. So I landed really with Southern University A&M College, which was fine because I got to go back with my family and cousins and even got to spend more time with my grandmother, which, I overdid it. Maybe I overdid it, I don't know. But I know she loved it. Here's the thing. I later found out, I was in my early 20s, maybe, 22 or something around there, that my parents got my brother a tutor for the ACT and SAT tests. And he had to take one of them tests 3 times before he got the scores that would get him accepted into the college. And that's fine for my brother. I'm not dinging him on that or anything like that. But for me, When I found that out, it felt like they were investing so much more into him than they were me. I couldn't understand that. But let's not jump ahead. Let's keep going. So all I could think of was just a few more months and I will be out of this house and into college. Little did I know, not only would my trauma and demons follow me to college, but so did my parents' imposing expectations. Man! So college was just a whirlwind of experiences, emotions, and exploration. First of all, I became an alcoholic. Uh, so a little backstory here. My dad was an alcoholic, and I knew that it was not a good thing, what I was doing. I knew that. But as anyone who has an addiction, you always figure you have control over it when that is never the case. I never wanted to embarrass anyone. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And we'll get more on that later. But I noticed when I drank, I was confident, I was fun, and my head was just clear. Like free to be me. I think I am all those things now. But at that time, I didn't feel safe to be that. So I ended up getting pregnant my sophomore year in college. This was completely random. Like the guy and I didn't even have sex, but we were naked and our intimate parts were touching, but there's no penetration, okay? So you know how in sex education class, maybe I don't know, whatever class, whatever grade it was, I think for me it was 6th grade, where the teachers would say, pre-ejaculation can still get you pregnant. Okay, this is the case right here. What made matters worse, I had intended this guy to be a one-night stand, and don't ask me why. It was just, I heard all my friends talking about it, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to try this thing. It's completely silly, okay? Really silly. But it was just, like I said, I was not exposed to a lot of stuff, and I was desperate to fit in, and this was something that everyone had done. Like, this is stuff that people were just talking about, and I'm like, I'm just sitting on the sidelines looking at it. So, but in that moment, and we were close, but I couldn't go through it with it. You know what I mean? So I just stopped and I was like, I can't do this. And he said, okay, no problem. We got dressed and he took me back to campus. So kudos to the guy. There are some really good guys that when you say stop, they stop, right? And this was one of those guys. And again, I had no intention. I was not interested in him or in any relationship at that time anyway. So there was nothing that was ever going to come of that. I threw his number away. There was no way for me to contact this guy after this, okay? So when I found out I was pregnant, there was no way to contact him, right? Because I threw the number away. And even if I had, that's a hard sell to be like, your pre-ejaculation got me preggo. Like, you know what I mean? It was just a really bad place to be in. I immediately went to my god sister's house and took a pregnancy test. And the second blue line was faint, but it was there. I was freaking out. She wasn't. She was really calm. I mean, I'm kind of like, what is going on here? I was like, I can't have this baby. We didn't even do it. What is this? She was just so damn calm, and I was like, what are you thinking? She was just like, I think it's gonna be okay. You should go to the doctor because maybe you aren't. But I don't want you to have the abortion. I would take the baby. My God. I mean, that's some kind of love. You understand? So, anyway, I remember saying, but no, you have a son. Like, she had her own son, my godson. So she said, so it would be cool to raise them together. I was like, okay, you are enjoying this a little too much. And I'm like, absolutely not. But gosh, if I had just an ounce of her bravery, my life would look a little different. Not that I'm regretting anything of what I have today. Absolutely not. Anywho, she was like 9 months younger than me. And so, just to give you guys perspective, right? This is my younger god sister who had my godson, her son. Oh, I think at this time it was like what, 3, maybe 4 years. I'm trying to think of at what point this was. So let's just say 3 years before. So her son was already 3. So I'm like 20, so she's 19. Like, so this is just giving you guys a perspective of the age and how brave she was in this moment, where she's like, "Look, if you have, I'll take it. I'll raise it then." You know. So, anyhow, after that, I went to my grandmother's house and called my mom and told her that I think I'm pregnant. I didn't know what to expect, but I definitely didn't expect her to just talk down to me. She had some pretty hurtful things to say, alluding to me being promiscuous. But she told my dad, and they hopped in the car and drove down like right away. While my parents were on the way, I told my roommate at the time, and she also told me I should keep the baby. I was like, I can't. And she was really deliberate as she spoke her next words. "Krystal, I don't know why you think you can't do this. You manage your school and work. You have all of your family around you. This can be done." I just sat on the bed and looked at her and asked, "You really think so?" She smiled, and with an emphatic yes, was her reply. Next thing, my parents arrived and they took me to the clinic. They confirmed my pregnancy there, and before we decided, if we're going to go through this, the 3 of us sat in the parking lot, and I remember saying, "Guys, I can do this. I can have this baby." My mom said, "Krystal, if you have this child, ain't no man gonna want you." To which I replied, "I ain't worried about no man." Then my dad said, "Krystal, if you have this baby, everything that you are working for your career, you can kiss it goodbye." So with that lack of support, I went ahead and got the abortion. I don't think even still I've truly forgiven myself for that. I don't know. It was a hard moment. It was a very, very difficult time for me. Yeah, it was a very difficult time for me. I tell you what, let's go ahead and have my sponsor jump in on this one. We'll get back. I remember researching all the ins and outs of podcasting when I first started on this path. One of the recommended podcasting recording platforms is Zencastr. And you know what? It was my first and last place to record all my episodes. The interface is super intuitive. Just log in and select episode and start recording. Now, each recording has a separate audio for each speaker in the episode, which makes editing so clean. Also, you can pause during a recording and pick right back up where you left off. Great for those in-the-moment interruptions or having a brief conversation with the guest. If you have thought about podcasting before and realized that you need a lot of different tools and services, those days are over. With Zencastr's all-in-one podcasting platform, you can create your podcast all in one place and distribute to Spotify, Apple, and other major destinations. It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code MWM and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. All right. So now I've collected myself. So after the abortion was completed, I suppose I resumed to regular programming, which was drinking, working, school, partying, doing that all over again. In my junior year, I moved off campus into an apartment with 2 other roommates. Things were good for a time until my body started rejecting the alcohol. I mean, to smell it made me nauseous, and even when I tried to force it down, I got sick. That's when the panic attacks got really bad. By this time, I was dating my husband, and I graduated the following year. And without a job, I had to return home to my parents. I remember being in my room, and I just got up and walked to my window and looked outside. At nothing in particular, really. And then I just fell to my knees, and I cried and cried. I asked God, why take from me everything that was helping me? I had nothing. Even the one thing that could make me forget, the alcohol. You took that from me. This was a big moment because I could feel my faith leaving me, and I believe this is where I made the decision to leave this world. I don't think I knew it at the time, though. It was like the will to live was just gone. I could no longer see past my wedding date, frankly. The dream of a career with that big family no longer was desired. I guess I was just going to fake it for as long as I could to get to my wedding. So, I guess, why wait till my wedding? Because that's kind of shitty to marry somebody only to make them a widower shortly after. I wasn't thinking that way. For once, I was thinking for me, however morbid that is. But my father always talked about walking me down the aisle. He was, always really giddy about it. And I didn't want to take that from him. So after that, I was done. And I would have fulfilled my purpose in life. That was it. So fast forward 2 years, and I am a newlywed. Just a month into being married, I noticed that my body wasn't doing what it normally does right before my period comes. And, I'm not trying to give too much information here, but all women know this. So there's usually some kind of secretion or some frequent bowel movements for me that really happens. But the cramps were there though. So I was like, okay, these other things aren't there, but at least I'm getting the cramps. Then I remembered when I was pregnant in college, and I was like, this is very familiar. So I go ahead and I take a test, and it's positive. I am pregnant. My entire mindset changed just like that. Snap of your fingers. This was my second chance at life. I get to be better and raise my child to be emotionally mature and loved. Not only do I get to do that once, but 3 times. So when I say my children saved my life, this is what I mean by that. I feel people are thinking, why are you in such a rush to go on? It's not like that, trust me. It's just that when you have been doing it all and you haven't been getting the acknowledgement, you make a decisive decision only for it to be delayed. You wonder, okay, what's next? Like, will my books and this podcast be better without me here? As in, my death is worth more than my life. Gosh, just saying this, it feels so dramatic and weak. And I know that's not true. Those aren't characteristics that describe me or that anyone would take me for, or anyone who has these same feelings for that matter. Okay? I'm going to tell you all that. I guarantee you, that's not the case. If anything, I'm the realest person you will ever speak to, because that's where the deep connection happens. I don't think I have time to be fake. There's a certain peace that settles in you when you look back at your life and think about all the wrong turns you could have taken but didn't, or the ones you did but found your way back. I think that's why I've found my passion in writing and public speaking and life coaching. It's simple. Relate, restate, and validate. It's interesting, this feeling of purpose. I felt it so much when they were young. And now that they are getting ready to leave the nest, I can feel that these same thoughts come up. The suicidal ideation. After they are gone, have I done my purpose now? It's a terrible feeling to feel that the ones that saved your life aren't enough to keep you living. But I thought about it. I didn't raise my kids the same way I was raised. I mean, my parents raised me to live without them. And let me tell you, they succeeded. Maybe more than they intended. But to an extent, I did do that. But I would like to think I added my own touch. I raised them to ask questions, tell the truth, cry, laugh, play, and enjoy each other's presence. But I want them to go on, and I know that they want me here. Each one of them expresses it in their own subtle way. A gentle expression of gratitude or a direct invasion of my bed space. But what's interesting is that this is what I remember doing to my parents. So it's just irrational to think that I have outlived my purpose. I certainly am not the one to make that call. I mean, being a mother is a thankless role. So why, if I was craving appreciation, was I so filled with this sense of purpose? I mean, I was engorged with being a mother. To raise these little people to be responsible, feel protected, and wanted. The little snuggles and constant questions, it was and still is thrilling. I'm definitely not a mother that wants to hold on to their kids after they've graduated. I want them to go off on their own and, enjoy their own adventures and find their purpose. Being here to see that is enough for me. Yeah, I guess maybe being a mother isn't so thankless after all, huh? So we had a few golden nuggets, and I think we should add some ketchup just to recap. 1. Give yourself time. Blessing and favor ain't for the weak. 2. Don't be so hard on yourself, even if everyone else is. If there's anyone you should be able to turn to, it should be you. 3. I am full of purpose, and so are you. And 4, beware that pre-ejaculation. It's the truth. That's the episode today. Have you had moments of doubt, feeling hopeless or purposeless? It's a crazy world. Only we make it sane. Give yourself the grace that you deserve and desire. I still would like to know how you were able to overcome those deep, dark feelings and thoughts. What makes life worth living for you? I love it all, and so will someone else. Make sure you guys subscribe to the show Moving With Me in the podcast and tap that alert bell so you know when these episodes drop. We're on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and YouTube Music. Please share, like, repost, and follow. Tag someone. We are creating a community. Quick housekeeping before you go. Follow me on Instagram at Moving With Meaning 82 and my Facebook page Moving With Meaning. Also, connect with me on LinkedIn. I have my YouTube channel up with tons of creative work, and watch for me on TikTok at Krystal B. Clark. Links are in the episode. Alrighty, I'm Krystal on Moving With Meaning the podcast, reminding you to take it one step at a time. All moves have meaning. Check y'all later.